Welcome back to Amerisogyny. I'm your host, Hannah Blue. You're listening to episode 85, The Psychology Behind Stalking. That's right. Let's talk about stalking. It's raining outside. I think I do my best episodes when it's raining. Today, we're going to talk about stalking, and we're going to travel all around the globe. But before we get into that, let me give you a little update. All of my accounts were reinstated. My Facebook business and author accounts, Instagram, and Threads. And of course, I knew they would be because, hello, I'm not a pedophile. But let me tell you how sneaky Meta is. Hours after they reinstated my Instagram account, they came back and said, "Oh, we found something else that violates our community guidelines, and we want everyone to feel safe and respected." And in this country, when people use everyone and all, what they mean is themselves, meaning I offended the other side with my liberal views. Do I care? No. Is that going to stop me from being a liberal? Never. And I don't give a damn. I'm going to keep doing it. I wasn't going back anyway. I can honestly say I've never really paid social media much attention, including Meta. But when I started doing a little digging on Reddit, of course, Reddit is the place to be. I found that a lot of people have had their accounts banned by Meta's AI bots over BS. Child sexual exploitation is not something you throw around lightly, but clearly a lot of people have had their accounts banned for it permanently. They didn't get them back like I did. And some have taken it to small claims court, filing suits. For me, it's not that serious. As long as that CSE label was dropped, I'm satisfied. I'm not trying to take Meta to court to be on their fascist platforms. As I said before, I don't need them to sell. But there is a petition going around. A lot of people are angry. It's not just in the U.S., it is around the world. They have had their accounts banned and they want Meta to be held accountable. The petition is on Reddit. There's also a video. Take everything with a grain of salt, but he claims he's a lawyer and he wants people to send in their information so they can possibly build another class action suit against Meta. I don't know if it's going to pan out, but hey, it's worth a shot. And that's about all the time I'm going to dedicate to that. We're going to move on to our topic at hand, stalking. Stalking is as old as time, and there's a reason for that. Here's my opinion. You can agree or not. People have issues with others when they set boundaries. When people say, this is no longer serving me, whatever it may be, it could be your disrespect, your backstabbing, contempt, bad energy, anything. When someone has decided they've had enough and they want to leave, be it a relationship, an acquaintanceship, a friendship, people get really offended. And that says more about the person who is offended than the person who stood up for themselves. Stalking, especially cyber stalking, can be done by strangers or someone you know. I definitely think it's a boundary issue when it comes to strangers. When you're being stalked by a stranger, they want your attention. Now, that might scare some people, but I'm not easily scared. To me, when I see that someone is going above and beyond for my attention, it is absolutely annoying. I think they're crazy, but it doesn't scare me. I don't know if it's because of the way that I grew up, the environment that I grew up in, the parenting that I had. My grandmother feared nothing. Nah, I don't fear it. But for some people, it scares them to death. And rightfully so, because some people are crazy. And I mean that. I also think it stems from low self-esteem, a lack of self-confidence. I think they're aware that no matter what they do, they will never be this person. Perhaps they'll never be on their level. They'll never have their love, respect, friendship, affection, whatever it may be. They try to make the person recognize them, and it never works out. Another angle is preconceived notions. And this could be with strangers or people you knew back in the day. Some people form opinions of you or have an image of you in their minds. And when you don't fit that image, that makes them spiral. How dare you be confident or smart or able to stand up for yourself? How dare you not be whatever is rattling around in my convoluted mind? So they stalk you. They watch you. They want to see what you do. In some parts of the world, we call them monitoring spirits. They're not watching you to root for you. Sometimes they're watching to see if you'll fail, especially if they feel you've rejected them. So why are we talking about stalking today? Well, there's a direct correlation between mental health and stalking. Stalking can have severe ramifications on a victim's mental health. What is this podcast about? You guessed it, mental health. Survivors of stalking are more likely to develop insomnia, depression, and lower levels of mental and emotional well-being than people who were never stalked. So let's take a deeper dive into what stalking is and how to recognize the signs, and then we'll move on to some true life stories. Stalking is a form of harassment where the stalker will be obsessed with the person they're targeting, and their repeated unwanted behavior can make the victim feel distressed or scared. Stalking is a pattern of unwanted, fixated, and obsessive behavior, which is repeated, persistent, and intrusive. Stalking has 4 elements: fixated, obsessive, unwanted, repeated. And there are a lot of ways to stalk someone. There's physical stalking, cyber stalking, communications, meaning sending unwanted text messages, emails, phone calls, or letters, and surveillance. That is monitoring the victim's activities without their consent, and that can be done through direct observation or technology. Let's go back to the elements because these are the 4 ways you can spot stalking. Does the person seem fixated on you or obsessed with you? Is their attention unwanted? Do they continue to force it on you or repeatedly do things that you don't like? If so, that's stalking. Social media can be a catalyst for an increase of stalking in the real world. And with that, let's get ready for our first stop, Tokyo, Japan. In 2019, Hibiki Sato was 26 years old, and he stalked a pop star he saw online. And how did he do it? Well, she posted a selfie online, and he was able to use the reflection in her eyes to track her down. Can you believe it? This self-described fan of the female pop star analyzed clues about her whereabouts from images she posted to her social media. And in one selfie, a train station sign was reflected in her eyes. The station was one she used frequently. And once he saw the train station sign, he used Google Street View to identify the location. Sankei Shinbun is an investigator. They said, people should be fully aware that posting pictures and video on social media runs the risk of divulging personal data. And I agree. On September 1st, Mr. Sato followed the young woman home and assaulted her. Now, this guy was scary and smart. Police said he analyzed the videos and pictures she posted to gain clues about her apartment. He even analyzed the placement of the curtains and the angle of the natural light. Now, why is that important? The angle of the natural light told him which floor her apartment was on. Now, you might be thinking, who has the time on their hands to sit there and do that? Sato did, and he's not alone. A lot of people have time to fixate on others. Now, here's another story. In 2016, a female Japanese pop singer was stabbed by an angry fan. What made him angry? She refused to accept a gift he sent to her. Her name is Mayu Tomita, and her attacker's name is Tomohiro Awazaki. I'll say that again. Because she did not accept a gift that he sent, he stabbed her more than 20 times in the neck, chest, arms, and back while she was waiting to go on stage. Now, Tomita did the right thing. She complained to police earlier in May about being stalked online. She even gave them his name and address. Did they follow up on it? No. Let's talk about another victim. Still in Japan, folks. This happened in Kanagawa Prefecture, south of Tokyo. On September 4th, 2025, police had to admit they messed up. Okazaki Asahi from Kawasaki City went missing last December. Police didn't find her partially skeletonized body until April. And where did they find it? At her ex-boyfriend's house. His name is Shirai Harayuki. The 28-year-old was arrested and indicted for murder. Stalking and psychology go hand in hand, you guys, and unfortunately, it results in a lot of true crime. According to Okazaki's family, the police didn't do their jobs. She had repeatedly told them that Shirai was stalking her. Before she went missing, she called a local police station 9 times in December to tell them that her ex was hanging around her home. But the police she spoke with underestimated the risks and urgency of her plight. According to them, they did a lukewarm investigation. Even after she disappeared, her family went to the police and pleaded with them to look for her, and they did nothing. According to reports, the police station made their own decisions without seeking advice from the headquarters. But get this, even when headquarters had the information, they failed to act too. Now the police are apologizing for their mistakes and say that they're ready to face the consequences of not protecting this girl when she was alive, as they should. Now, would you believe Japan has an anti-stalking act, and it covers making silent calls or calling, transmitting through fax, or sending text messages to any person persistently despite their rejections. And since I like to throw in a little research from time to time, I have a research study for you that was completed in September of 2024. It is a survey on the reasons why victims of stalking did not exhibit help-seeking behavior, a text mining analysis. And this was done by Takuro Suzuki. I love research studies. So why was the study done? It was used to explore the reasons victims of stalking in Japan do not seek the help they need while considering the severity of victimization. I like that the participants were a good mix of men and women. The methods. 908 Japanese people reported experiencing repeated stalking behavior from a former intimate partner in the past 5 years. 253 men and 321 women did not consult police. To find out why they didn't call police, a survey with open-ended questions was provided. Here are the results. The reason the men didn't contact the police, they believed their complaints wouldn't be taken seriously because the perpetrators were women and there is a common perception that females do not pose threats. On the other hand, the women didn't contact the police because they were concerned about provoking the perpetrator or making the situation worse. And lastly, they were embarrassed. And before we move on to our next stop, I want to make sure you have a very clear picture of who stalkers are and what they do. Who can be a stalker? Anybody. A lot of stalkers target people they know. Many of them are ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends. But stalkers can also be acquaintances, family members, or strangers. Now, what do stalkers do? They engage in behavior to frighten their victims or put them on notice, such as unwanted contact, repeated calls, texts, emails, messages. They may follow you or send you unwanted gifts or letters. They may use tracking technology, a GPS, an app, or hidden cameras. They may be showing up at your door, waiting for you at home or work or school. They're not above property damage. They may spread rumors about you in person and online. Oh yeah, this is one that people don't know about. If somebody is spreading rumors about you long after you have stopped talking to them, that, my dear, is a stalker. They might threaten to hurt you, your family, your friends, or your pets. They might harass your coworkers. They could threaten to post intimate pictures of you online, hack your accounts, change your passwords, or impersonate you online. And they can even try to find out information about you using the internet. Okay, we got it? Now let's get ready for our next stop. The UK, United Kingdom. Here's the story of a lady who said she was stalked by an acquaintance. She said she felt bad for him because he was struggling financially and he had also lost his wife. She said they attended the same community group, and as a Christian, she wanted to help him, so she baked him a cake. Now that's a nice thing to do, right? As it turned out, she regretted it. Here's what he did. She said every time she showed up for her group, he would be there waiting for her. And when she tried to talk to others, he would interrupt her. She said he became insistent and demanded her attention. Remember, we already talked about stalkers want your attention. When he wouldn't stop, she tried to get him to talk to others, but he wasn't interested because, again, he wanted her attention. She said he would wait outside and walk with her to her car, and then he started showing up at her house. It became so bad, she started changing the time that she would come and go to avoid him, but that only made him angry, and the behavior escalated. She said he demanded to know what he had done wrong. And let me stop here. Let me make this clear to you, my listeners. If someone is demanding your time and your attention, you don't have to give it to them. Don't let them strong arm you. You're allowed to say who you want in your life and who you don't. Now, others intervened and asked him to leave her alone. But you know what he would do? He would constantly stare at her through their group sessions. She said when she went to the hospital with her daughter, he was there. When she played sports, he was there. When she contacted the police, they asked if he had threatened her. Her answer was no, so they didn't take action. She finally stopped attending her regular community group and went to another. And that's when she said her group leaders finally realized that his behavior was inappropriate. And they told him if he contacted her again, they would report him for stalking. That finally stopped the behavior. She was able to move on. But for an entire year, she completely changed the routines in her life. She shouldn't have had to do that. And I absolutely agree with what she's saying here. When someone pays you unwanted attention, it is not flattery. It is obsessive, it is irrational, and it is not normal. Now, she was able to move on and live her life, but another woman was not. We're still in the UK, you guys. Her name is Gracie Spinks. In June of 2021, then 35-year-old Michael Sellers murdered her. Gracie was 23 years old at the time. He met her at their job and became obsessed with her. A bit of background information on Sellers. Before Gracie, he had harassed at least 8 other women. Gracie did the right thing. She reported Sellers to police 4 months before she died. Now, the police talked to Sellers, but they didn't request information from his employer, nor did they carry out a national database check. They actually categorized him as low risk. Had they properly questioned his employer, they would have found 8 complaints filed by other women he had harassed. Gracie's parents called police's response to their daughter's stalking case diabolical. And they were right, because here's what they didn't do. They failed to investigate a bag of weapons found near the field in Duckmountain, Derbyshire, where Gracie was killed. And why is that significant? She would tend to her horse there. A rucksack had knives, an axe, a hammer, Viagra, and a handwritten note that said, "Do not lie," in addition to a receipt that could be tracked to sellers. The items were logged as lost property by the police force. Talk about a smoking gun. They literally had a bag full of weapons that traced back to sellers, and they ignored it. According to Richard Spinks, Gracie's father, it has been upsetting and emotionally draining. It has been a catalog of errors on the police's part. I think Derbyshire police have let Gracie down big time. It seems like they weren't bothered. They didn't want to investigate. They completely failed to join the dots. Her mother is Alison Ward, and she said, "We thought she would be safeguarded, that things would be put in place, that she would be safe. But that's not been the case at all. It's basic policing where they failed." An inquest jury of 10 members was called to investigate. Ms. Ward said, "The inquest has shown us that victims of stalking don't actually always realize the level of risk they are exposed to. You look to the police for support because they are supposedly trained in this, but they just completely failed. We would very often have karaoke nights in our living room. Now we have silence. The heart of our family has been ripped out." Gracie was pursuing a career as a swimming teacher before she was furloughed in 2020 and took a temporary job at a local e-commerce company, Xbyte. And that's where Sellers worked as her supervisor. The pair met a few times outside of work, but when Gracie told him she no longer wanted it to continue, he refused to accept her decision and would bombard colleagues with questions about her. There's that disrespect of boundaries I told you guys about. After Gracie found him waiting for her at the field where she kept her horse, she reported him to her employer, and Sellers was let go for gross misconduct. Gracie told police, "I'm just worried that the next time it happens to someone else, it could be worse. He might kidnap someone." Now let's get back to the other women he harassed. Some had to quit their jobs, and others had to move to get away from him. One woman said Sellers bumped his car into hers at a roundabout as he followed her while she was driving home. A member of the Derbyshire police released a statement and said, "Put simply, as a force, we failed Gracie. And for that, I can only offer my own and the force's most sincere apologies. We have now heard the conclusion of the jury, and we accept this fully. We await any further recommendations that may come from the coroner, and will review these in due course." He said that in response to Gracie's death, the force had made significant changes to the ways in which they receive and investigate stalking reports. However, none of this seeks to minimize the failings we have seen in this case, and the force fully accepts the failures that were part of this most tragic set of circumstances. While nothing is going to bring Gracie back, but at least they're taking accountability, and I hope they will take the next victim seriously. Now, this reminds me of an old movie that came out in 1993, you guys. Originally, it was called I Can Make You Love Me, but when I saw it, it was called Stalking Laura. It starred Brooke Shields, everybody knows her, and Richard Thomas. We know him as John Boy from the Waltons, and he was Bill in Stephen King's It. This actually happened in the 80s, guys. Laura Black and Richard Farley were real people. He met her at the job. He became obsessed with her, like Gracie's story. He wanted much more than she was willing to give him. Laura followed the same steps as Gracie. She reported him to her boss and police. Nothing was done. He even broke into her garage. Well, when Laura filed a restraining order against him, it pissed him off, and he bought guns, explosives, and over 2,000 rounds of ammunition. Laura was waiting for her court date when he blasted into their employer, killing several employees, and shot Laura in the shoulder. And I don't know if he said this in real life, but when he surrendered, he asked police if he thought Laura would remember it all. I'm telling you, Stalking Laura is a movie I remember to this day, and I saw it in the 90s. A bit off topic, 90s movies were good, you guys. That's why I don't believe in remakes. I think it cheapens the quality of the content. There will never be another round of 90s movies ever again. If you watched those movies back in the day, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now let's get ready for our last stop. Broomfield, Colorado, USA. Let's dissect the case of Crystal Krug. Now this case was just bizarre. Crystal Krug was 44, a chemical engineer, and a mother of 3. She was discovered dead in her garage on December 14th, 2023. Now get this. Her husband, Daniel Krug, called police and asked them to do a welfare check on his wife. A welfare check is when someone calls the police and asks them to see if someone is all right. According to police, Daniel made a non-emergency call saying, "I don't think this is an emergency, but this feels really weird. My wife isn't responding to text messages or phone calls." According to police, Daniel had been impersonating a boyfriend Crystal had when she was a teen. He put his own family through hell by stalking his wife before he killed her. When she was alive, Crystal had become concerned about emails and texts she was receiving from someone claiming to be Holland, her ex-boyfriend. Now, she hadn't seen him in 20 years. Apparently, the threats involved Crystal and Daniel. And in October 2023, Crystal went to the police with a detailed spreadsheet documenting every interaction with her alleged stalker. Crystal said, "This is exhausting. It has definitely made me paranoid everywhere I go." Now here's where everything hit the fan. Detectives traced some of the messages to an IP address at Daniel's job, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. They said Daniel used burner phones to create the illusion of a stalker and even photographed himself to send threatening messages about the fictitious stalker watching him. Holland never stalked Crystal or Daniel. As a matter of fact, he lived in a different state when she was killed. Police believe Daniel attacked her shortly after she returned home from dropping off their kids at school. He allegedly struck her in the head before stabbing her in the heart. And in a bold and calculated move, he used her phone to schedule text messages to himself and others, disabled the home security cameras, and placed blue tape over their Ring doorbell camera. The idiot even searched, "How much head trauma do you need to knock someone unconscious?" When confronted by police, he told them his marriage had been deteriorating and they were sleeping in separate bedrooms, and claims he had asked for a divorce. I doubt that, because if he asked, then why kill her? Deputy District Attorney Kate Armstrong told jurors Daniel Krug was losing control and his marriage was falling apart. Crystal wanted out, but Daniel Krug was in denial. And surprise, surprise, Daniel had a history of violence too. A former girlfriend of his testified that he had stalked her decades earlier, created multiple fake online personas to harass her after their breakup, but he was never charged with a crime. In April of 2025, a jury found Daniel guilty of first-degree murder, stalking, and criminal impersonation after he pleaded not guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, if you ask me, he should have got the death penalty because he planned this all out. Like I said, you may sit and wonder who has the time to think and plan and do these things, but there are people out there who do just that. They have nothing but time. When it comes to doing evil, they make time for it. Linda Grumsrud is Crystal's mother, and she said every day is a difficult day. You wake up and you feel the pain, and then you just try to go on with your day. Well, people, I hope I have given you some good and useful information on how to protect yourselves from stalking. This was a long one, so give yourselves time to process all the information, and if you need to take another listen or two, do so. But above all, protect yourselves. I'll say again, you don't owe anybody your time or your attention, nor are you required to remain stagnant in a place, not moving, allowing people to disrespect you. I don't care who it is. It could be friendships, acquaintanceships. You are allowed to get tired and cut the bonds. Well, my listeners, I'd love to bring you more stories, but I'm out of time. A lot of crazy things are going on in the world, and there's a lot of unbalanced people walking around in it. But I want you to be careful and be good to yourselves. I will be back with more stories. Until then, be easy, take care of yourselves, and as always,